And welcome back, rugby fans, to Rugby411. As always, I'm your host. My name is Joshua Shibata, and this is, once again, my all too early predictions, final standing predictions for Major League Rugby's 2023 season. Also, too, I'm going to mention it now, but I'll go more in depth at the end of the video. I'm also announcing that, yes, once again, I will be doing another pick'em pool for Major League Rugby, courtesy of Super Brew. If you don't know about Super Brew, I'll explain all about it. It's a wonderful app where you can follow and track and pick all the winners of every Major League Rugby game throughout the whole season. Join us. Top point scorer at the end of the season gets to pick a Major League Rugby t-shirt from their favorite team, and I will get it for you as your prize. So I'll go more into detail on how to join and all that, as well as put it in the comments below and the description of the video below. But let's go through, once again, my all too early predictions for the end of the season. If you've seen my Western or Eastern Conference preview videos, you'll kind of see where this is going. If not, no big deal. You could just watch this video. I kind of go over real quickly what I talked about in the Western and Eastern Conference preview videos. Again, I like doing this because it is fun. It is almost an impossible task to get exactly right every team's finish at the end of the season, especially when we're still a couple weeks from the beginning of the season itself. Plus, rugby is such an interesting and fascinating game where, especially how long a 16-week season is, it's very grueling. Injuries do happen. Teams get hot. Teams get cold. So sometimes, what you think is going to happen ends up being the exact opposite. But like I said, if you watch my video from last year, I came pretty close. Wasn't super far off. I think maybe one or two teams I was really off with. Houston SaberCats is definitely one of them, but it's pretty close to a lot of the other ones. So, once again, using the board, 1 through 12, picking how I feel they will finish. This is just, again, power rankings, not necessarily the exact standings at the end, though I do make mention of which teams I feel will make it to the Major League Rugby final. I won't predict who will pick up the Shield per se, though I have my thoughts of who I'm leaning to. But this is, again, kind of how I feel the teams will bottom out at the end of the season. So, starting with, of course, the bottom team, unfortunately, once again, I definitely got this one right last time. Your second favorite team and my second favorite team, the Dallas Jackals, who are no longer the new kids on the block, but again, as I mentioned before, they haven't really improved their team too much. They've lost a couple of key players, Carlos Initian, Bronson Tellis. Even with new head coach, I don't feel they're going to improve much more. I do feel, though, they will win their first game ever in franchise history. They won't go 0-15, but any more than that is going to be pretty tough, especially with how tough the Western Conference is this season. Coming up next, surprise turnaround for this team, New England Free Jacks, who I feel will definitely drop quite a bit this season. I mean, they are losing quite a few strong players from their team, Dougie Fife being one of them, Bodine Waka, of course, and Slade McDowell being another. I mean, you really can't replicate those two players, no matter how hard you try. I feel they will really struggle. Fortunately, though, as we get further and further in this, the Eastern Conference is almost wide open, but the Western Conference teams are going to beat down on the Eastern Conference teams, and that's going to create losses for a lot of these teams. New England Free Jacks are definitely going to be one of them. Coming up next in the Eastern Conference, again, NOLA Gold. NOLA, again, is a team that hasn't really changed much. They've brought back a lot of their main roster, but the loss of Carl Myers, I think, is huge for them as well. He added a lot of veteran leadership, scored a lot of points for them. I just feel that you look at their record last season, they finished 4-12. You still have the same team, but you lose one of your best players. How much further up are you going to go? So I don't feel they'll move much further than where they are, and they're going to finish closer to the bottom of the overall Major League Rugby. Coming up next, almost in a similar spot, is going to be the Toronto Arrows. Now, granted, again, last season they struggled having the longest road trip ever of any professional sports team. They'll be playing now more at home in a normal schedule. But again, looking on paper, I don't feel Toronto has really improved their team much. They've lost quite a few players. The only advantage they have is, again, the Eastern Conference is going to be much weaker this year. New England Free Jacks definitely are going to take a tumble. So is going to be Rugby ATL. So I think that will allow the Toronto Arrows to kind of move up a little bit. I can easily see them kind of coming up to the middle of the pack, but they're definitely going to be further down. I don't feel they are a top 4 or elite team in the conference. And speaking of another team that's fallen from the Eastern Conference is Rugby ATL, which I know this picture is definitely not... Some Rugby ATL fans are not happy about that. But let's talk about the team itself. Rugby ATL, just like the New England Free Jacks, have lost quite a few players on their team as well. They don't have Connor Cook, Connor Keys, Marco Jans Vans Rensburg, Joaquin de la Vega, Jan Vans Rensburg, top try scorer, Joaquin de la Vega Medina, top point scorer. Again, just like with New England, you're losing so many. But unlike New England, Rugby ATL does have a good core team coming back, and they finished second in the conference, just behind your eventual Major League Rugby champions, Rugby New York Ironworkers now. So I don't feel they'll slide too far, but, comparatively to the West, they are near the bottom. I feel they will probably maybe get back into the playoff spot. It just depends on what happens with Rugby New York and one of the other teams, Old Glory DC, but maybe they will be in that number 3 spot. Coming up next, your second team from the Western Conference, the Utah Warriors. Utah Warriors was the team that I was completely off of last season. I expected them to do much, much better. For whatever reason, they really struggled last season, finishing 5-10. Again, not much has changed with their roster except the loss of Mikey Teo. Again, you're bringing back most of that roster that was a 5-10 team. You're losing a dynamic player like Mikey Teo. How much further up can they go? And especially the Western Conference is going to be much, much tougher this season. I feel that's going to rum up a lot of losses for Utah. I don't think they'll make it into the playoffs. I think they're going to be struggling, especially with the other teams that are in the conference. I can easily see this next team really doing a number on them as well when they play, and that is Old Glory DC, who is probably the first team that is really making the jump up. So Old Glory DC finished 3-13 last year, but they were always a team that was in every game, and they have such an impressive roster. Jameson Fonala Schultz, Danny Tusitalo, Threaten Palemo, and now you add in former All Black Sevens member Kurt Baker to add some leadership and veteran skills to the team. Eastern Conference is going to be much weaker this season. I feel Old Glory has a chance to really skyrocket up and make an appearance in the playoffs to take advantage of the fact that these other teams that were stronger at one point are now much, much weaker. So Old Glory DC, I feel, will make it into the playoffs. Now we have an exciting team, the new kids on the block, the Chicago Hounds, coming in. And, again, it shouldn't be surprising that I have them high up into the mid-level of the pack, all pun intended, because you look at the team, the roster is composed of former players of 2 teams that were on top of the Western Conference, the Austin Gill Gronies and the LA Guillotines. Plus, you have management with Sam Harris as the head coach who led the Austin Gill Gronies to the top of the Western Conference. I don't feel there'll be a culture shock with the team. I feel the team will be able to be cohesive right off the bat. I see them going more the ways of the LA Guillotines, who in their very first year in the franchise were Major League Rugby champions. I don't think they'll struggle nearly as much as the Dallas Jackals have struggled as a new team. The only thing that they have going against them is that they're in a conference by default, even though Chicago is not nearly as west as one would think. But they're going to be in a very, very tough conference in the Western Conference. They're going to be dealing with a lot of tough teams, but I feel they have the firepower, they have the ability, they have the team leadership to be a successful franchise. Would not be shocked if they made the playoffs. Then another team that I feel should make the playoffs from the Western Conference, the Houston SaberCats. So the Houston SaberCats last season had some hardships as well. They ended 9-7. By default, they were the first team in the Western Conference to be in the playoffs. They should have technically been the third. They kind of tapered out at the end, but their team has added some great players. Hanko Hermeshais, formerly of the LA Guiltinis. Carl Denishian, formerly of the Dallas Jackals, probably one of the best players of the Dallas Jackals, and bringing back a good core group from Houston. I feel they will continue where they left off and being a good team. The only thing is just their inconsistent last year was kind of shocking and surprising. Hopefully they figured that out and they can end up being in the playoffs once again. But standing in their way, San Diego Legion, who I feel will make a big turnaround, very similar to Old Glory DC. San Diego made it into the playoffs just by default, even though they were 8-8. Technically, they were able to slide themselves into the playoffs. But man, you look at their roster, they made a lot of strong acquisitions onto their team. Not only they're bringing back Mikey Teo, but they brought in Isaac Ross from the Austin Gilgronis. They brought in Luke Burton, Christian Poidevin, Justice Desuru, all from the LA Guiltinis. Sean McNulty up from the Seattle Seawolves, also formerly of the LA Guiltinis. And they're bringing back everybody else from the San Diego Legion team. Nate Osberger, Ryan Matias, Will Ferrari, Ma Nonu. You got a very, very good team. Plus a new stadium, Snapdragon Stadium, which is going to be huge. It's beautiful down in San Diego. Lots of things going for San Diego, and I feel that they have a very good shot of being a stronger presence in the playoffs rather than just barely sliding in. They just got their work cut out for them because of who's in the top two spots. Now, again, the top two spots, I don't know. Just because you're in the number one spot doesn't necessarily mean I feel that you will win the Major League Rugby Championship for sure, though that's what I'm kind of leaning towards. But I do believe the top two teams are going to be the teams that are in the Major League Rugby Finals. Again, the teams that are near the top are probably going to be playoff bounds, but these are the teams I feel when the dust is settled will be playing for that shield. And one of them is your newly named Rugby New York Ironworkers at number 2. Because again, you look at the team, and again, even though they've lost the announcement of Andy Ellis retiring, they're bringing back everybody else from this league-winning team. You're bringing back Dylan the Butcher Fawcett. You're bringing back Cara Pryor, Jack Heighton. You're bringing back, of course, Ed Fidel, the top try scorer last season for Major League Rugby. There's really nothing that this team is not going to bring back. Sam Windsor's coming back. There's really no change. So the team that won the championship, minus Andy Ellis, is coming back. Andy Ellis does stay on as a technical advisor, so his presence is still there. I feel, if it ain't broke, why fix it? Rugby New York Ironworkers are going to make a repeat for the conference. Also, too, with the fact that Rugby ATL, the New England Free Jacks, are both teams that were their competitors last season, are going to have both lost some tremendous firepower on their side. I think the Eastern Conference is wide open for New York to just dominate. And then, of course, facing against them will be, once again, the Seattle Seawolves. Again, you look at these Western teams, Seattle, again, has improved themselves tremendously. They added in Connor Mooneyham. They added in Jake Turnbull. They're bringing back everybody else from that playoff, that championship playing team. Martin Iosefo, Andrew Duartolo, Ronald Herbst, AJ Alatimu. So they just came up short. But man, I feel really good about them this season. I really do feel that even though these two teams are playing again for the Shield, I think the outcome is going to be different. I think Seattle, like I said before, will be your very first three-time Major League Rugby champions. Now, again, I did kind of calculate, looking at the schedule, looking at everything, I kind of calculated wins and losses like I did last year. I'm going to put that up at the very end. That's always fun to look at because, those I'm usually almost completely off. But again, the ranking system is very, very competent, I feel. A lot of these teams may not exactly finish like this, but they're going to be close to where they are. Again, I'm not going to be surprised if Seattle, San Diego, Houston are your 3 Western Conference teams in the playoff. New York, Old Glory, maybe ATL, maybe Toronto. Just like maybe the Hounds might be able to slide in. I mean, they have a very capable team to do it, but this is kind of where I feel the teams are going to end at the end of the season. So again, it's going to be fun. This is on video. It'll be fun to watch in the future, looking back at this to see how close or how far off I am on it. So that's my way too early predictions for the end of the season. Now, once again, announcing that we are going to be having the Rugby411 Major League Rugby Pick'em competition in Super Brew. So again, Super Brew is a cool app that you can download for absolutely free. And you can find my Rugby411 Pick'em pool, or I'm going to put down the Rugby code, the join code that I will put down in the description video. Just type that in. It'll help you find my pool, join it in. Last time we had 18 players play. It was a lot of fun. Again, if you win, there is a prize. I will get you the Major League Rugby team t-shirt of your choice. If you are the top point scorer, I'll make the same deal that I made last time because I came very close. I believe I finished either 3rd or 4th last season. If I finish at the top, I will donate $50 to a charity of the 2nd place person's choice as my contributions to how everybody played. So again, more people that play, the merrier. We had a lot of fun with it. And hope you guys join us for this season. Don't forget, the Major League Rugby season starts February 17th, Friday. 2 games in the Eastern Conference will be starting. You can watch everything on the Rugby Network, or again, some selected games on Fox Sports 2. So thank you very much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave your comments on how you feel your team's going to finish, or if you liked who I felt will finish, where they finished, and let me know. Again, I could be completely wrong. It is way too early to predict these things, but it's always fun. And again, thank you very much for watching my video, and I'll see you on the pitch.